The auction room smelled like expensive cigars and darker intentions. Michelle Brooks sat in the back corner, hidden behind a marble pillar, watching her entire life being sold to the highest bidder. Not her life exactly. Her father's debt. $10 million. A number so astronomical it might as well have been a death sentence. Her hands trembled in her lap. Her chest rose and fell with shallow breaths. She wore the only decent dress she owned. Black, simple, too thin for the air conditioning that made her skin prickle with goosebumps. The auctioneer's voice echoed through the room. $10 million in outstanding debt. The Brooks family estate, all assets, and contractual obligations included. Do I hear an opening bid? Michelle's stomach turned. Contractual obligations. That was the legal term for her. She had co-signed her father's loan 3 years ago when she was young, desperate, and stupid enough to believe he would pay it back. Her father was dead now, killed in a car accident 6 months ago. But the debt lived on, growing, multiplying, consuming everything she had worked for. Silence stretched across the room. Men in expensive suits exchanged glances but said nothing. 10 million was too high, too risky. Nobody wanted damaged goods. Michelle closed her eyes. Maybe no one would bid. Maybe she'd have more time. Maybe. Then a voice cut through the silence like a blade. 10 million. Cash. Now. Every head turned. Michelle's breath stopped. A man stood at the back of the room. Tall, impossibly tall. Dressed in a black suit that looked like it cost more than her entire neighborhood. His face was sharp, sculpted, emotionless. Dark hair brushed back perfectly. Eyes like black ice that seemed to see through walls. Korean. Powerful. Absolutely terrifying. The auctioneer blinked, clearly shocked. Sold. To Mr. John Park. The gavel slammed down. Michelle's world shattered. She tried to stand, but her legs betrayed her. She gripped the pillar for balance, heart hammering so violently she thought it might explode from her chest. John Park didn't move. He simply stood there, hands in his pockets, staring directly at her. He knew she was there. He had known the entire time. His lips didn't curve into a smile. He didn't nod. He just watched her with the calm, detached interest of someone who had just purchased a very expensive investment. The room began to empty. Business concluded. Lives ruined. Contracts signed. And then he moved. Slow. Controlled. Inevitable. He walked toward her, each step echoing across the marble floor like a countdown to her destruction. Michelle pressed her back against the pillar, pulse racing, mind screaming at her to run. But she couldn't move. He stopped 3 feet away. Close enough for her to see the faint scar along his jaw. Close enough to feel the weight of his presence crushing the air between them. Michelle Brooks, he said. His voice was low, smooth, lethal. She swallowed hard. Yes. His eyes traced her face slowly, assessing, memorizing, claiming. You're coming with me. Her breath hitched. I don't understand. The debt was my father's. I just co-signed. You signed a contract, he interrupted, voice dropping into a dangerous calm, which makes you equally responsible. And now I own that contract. Tears burned her eyes. Please, I'll pay you back. I'll work. You will, he said simply. She blinked. Hope flickered. Then he leaned in, just slightly, his breath brushing her cheek. But not with money. Her heart stopped. His eyes locked onto hers. Unblinking, unreadable, terrifying. You'll pay me back with your body, time, your energy, your presence, your obedience. He straightened, adjusting his cufflinks with casual precision. Every second of your life now belongs to me, Michelle, and I intend to collect. The car ride was suffocating. Michelle sat pressed against the door, as far from him as possible, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles had turned white. John Park sat across from her, legs crossed, one arm draped casually along the seat. He didn't speak, didn't look at her, didn't need to. His presence filled every inch of the car. She tried to steady her breathing, tried to think, but her mind was a hurricane of panic and disbelief. What did he mean by body, time, and presence? What exactly did he expect from her? The silence stretched for what felt like hours. Finally, Michelle couldn't take it anymore. Where are you taking me? He didn't look up from his phone. Home. That's not my home. It is now. Her chest tightened. You can't just. I can. His eyes finally lifted, pinning her in place. And I did. The moment you signed that contract, you became mine. I'm not property. Legally, you are. The words hit her like a slap. She turned away, blinking back tears, staring out the window as the city lights blurred past. The car pulled through massive iron gates. Michelle's eyes widened. The mansion was a fortress. Glass walls, towering columns, gardens lit with soft golden lights. It looked like something out of a twisted fairy tale. A palace built for a king who took what he wanted. The car stopped. John Park stepped out first, buttoning his suit jacket with one smooth motion. He didn't wait for her. He simply walked toward the entrance. Michelle hesitated, then forced herself to follow, her heels clicking against the stone pathway. Inside, the mansion was even more breathtaking and terrifying. Marble floors reflected chandelier light. Dark art hung on walls. A grand staircase curved upward like a spine. Everything screamed wealth, power, control. A woman in a maid's uniform appeared instantly, bowing deeply. Mr. Park. Welcome home. He didn't acknowledge her. He simply gestured toward Michelle. Take her upstairs. 3rd floor. East wing. Show her the rules. The maid nodded quickly. Yes, sir. Michelle's pulse spiked. Wait. John Park finally looked at her. His eyes were cold, empty, final. You'll sleep there. You'll work from there. You'll leave only when I permit it. Her chest tightened. You can't just. He stepped closer. Too close. His voice dropped into a whisper that slid down her spine like ice. I own you, Michelle. Every breath. Every thought. Every movement. He leaned in, his lips almost brushing her ear. Don't forget it. He turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing into the darkness. The maid touched her arm gently. This way, miss. Michelle followed, numb, terrified, trapped. The room was stunning. A massive bed with silk sheets. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking gardens that glowed softly in the moonlight. A walk-in closet bigger than her old apartment. A bathroom with marble counters and a bathtub that could fit 3 people. But the door had a lock on the outside. The maid, whose name was Sarah, handed Michelle a thick folder. Mr. Park's rules, she said softly, her expression sympathetic but resigned. You're expected to follow them exactly. Michelle opened the folder with trembling hands. Her eyes scanned the pages, each rule tightening the noose around her freedom. Rule 1. You will wake at 6 a.m. daily. No exceptions. Rule 2. You will prepare Mr. Park's breakfast and serve it at 7 a.m. sharp in the main dining room. Rule 3. You will dress appropriately for all occasions. Your wardrobe has been selected and organized by color and function. Rule 4. You will attend all events Mr. Park requires as his companion. You will smile. You will be gracious. You will not embarrass him. Rule 5. You will not leave the mansion grounds without explicit permission. Rule 6. You will not contact anyone from your previous life without approval. Rule 7. You will maintain your appearance to Mr. Park's standards at all times. Rule 8. Disobedience will have consequences. Mr. Park determines severity. Rule 9. Your daily schedule will be provided each morning. Deviation is not permitted. Rule 10. You exist to serve Mr. Park's needs. Your comfort is secondary. Michelle's hands shook so badly the paper rattled. Tears blurred her vision. This is insane, she whispered. This is slavery. Sarah's voice was gentle. Mr. Park is particular, but if you follow the rules, he's fair. And honestly, miss, she hesitated. You're safer here than you would be with the people who wanted to buy your debt. Michelle looked up sharply. What do you mean? Sarah's expression darkened. The loan sharks your father borrowed from? They don't just want money. They traffic women, sell them overseas. Mr. Park saved you from that, whether you believe it or not. Michelle's blood ran cold. Sarah placed a hand on her shoulder. It's not freedom, miss, but it's survival. And sometimes that's enough. She left quietly, the lock clicking behind her. Michelle sank onto the bed, burying her face in her hands. Sobs racked her body. She was trapped in a gilded cage, owned by a man she didn't know, forced to play a role she never auditioned for. And tomorrow her new life would begin. Michelle woke at 5:55 a.m. to the sound of a soft alarm she didn't remember setting. Her body ached from crying herself to sleep. She dragged herself out of bed and stumbled into the massive kitchen at 6:30, still half asleep, staring at ingredients she barely recognized. The kitchen was immaculate, professional-grade appliances gleaming under soft lights. She found eggs, bread, butter. Simple. Safe. By 6:55, she had managed to prepare scrambled eggs, toast, and coffee. It wasn't fancy, but it was edible. At exactly 7 a.m., John Park entered the dining room. He didn't greet her. He didn't smile. He simply sat down at the head of the long table, unfolded his napkin with precise movements, and waited. Michelle set the plate in front of him, her hands trembling slightly. She could feel his eyes on her, assessing, judging. He stared at the food for a long moment. Then he picked up his fork and took a bite. Silence stretched like a tightrope. Michelle held her breath, waiting for his verdict. He set down his fork carefully. It's bland. Her face burned with humiliation. I'm sorry. I'm not a professional chef. I didn't ask for excuses. His voice was cold, flat. I asked for breakfast. Tears stung her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket with one smooth motion. Tomorrow, do better. He walked out without another word. Michelle stood there, fists clenched at her sides, heart aching with anger and shame and something else she couldn't name. But then something inside her shifted, hardened. She wasn't going to break. Not for him. Not for anyone. If he wanted her obedience, he'd have to earn it. And if he wanted perfection, she'd show him exactly what she was capable of. Tomorrow would be different. Michelle woke at 5:30 a.m., wide awake and determined. She'd spent half the night researching breakfast recipes on her phone. Apparently, she was allowed internet access, just not social media or messaging apps. By 6:50, the dining room smelled like a five-star restaurant. French toast with caramelized bananas, perfectly poached eggs, fresh squeezed orange juice, coffee with the exact temperature and strength she'd noticed he preferred. At 7 a.m. sharp, John Park entered. He stopped in the doorway, his eyes flickering with surprise before his mask slid back into place. He sat. Michelle served him with exaggerated care, then stood back, hands clasped, waiting. He took a bite of the French toast, paused, took another. His eyes lifted to hers, unreadable. Better. One word. That's all she got. But Michelle smiled anyway. A small, victorious smile. Glad you approve, Mr. Park. Something flickered in his expression. Amusement, interest, then it was gone. But as he ate in silence, Michelle noticed something. His shoulders relaxed slightly. The hard line of his jaw softened just a fraction. He was enjoying it. When he finished, he set down his fork and looked at her directly for the first time since she'd arrived. You're capable of more than you pretend. She tilted her head, playful despite herself. Maybe I just needed the right motivation. His eyes narrowed. And what's that? She grinned. Proving you wrong. For a split second, just a split second, his lips almost curved. Almost. Then he stood, adjusting his cuffs. Don't get cocky, Michelle. You still have a long way to go. But as he left, she could have sworn she heard him murmur, well done. Michelle had fallen into a rhythm. Wake early. Perfect breakfast. Clean the kitchen. Wait for her daily schedule. Usually errands around the mansion, organizing his office, or preparing for upcoming events. It was exhausting, but it was also distracting. She didn't have time to think about her old life, her brother, her friends, everything she'd lost. On day 5, she brought John his breakfast, eggs Benedict with hollandaise sauce she'd made from scratch. She set it down with a playful curtsy. Your Majesty's breakfast is served. He looked up sharply from his tablet, eyes narrowing. Are you mocking me? She bit back a smile. Would I dare? His jaw clenched, but there was something in his eyes, something almost like amusement. Sit. She blinked. What? I said sit. You're eating with me this morning. Michelle hesitated, then sat across from him, confused. He pushed a second plate toward her. Apparently, the staff had prepared one for her too. Eat. I'm not hungry. I don't care. You're too thin. Eat. She stared at him, bewildered. Why do you care if I'm thin? His eyes locked onto hers, intense, unreadable. Because you represent me now, and I don't own anything that looks weak or neglected. The words should have hurt, should have made her angry, but instead she laughed. A real, genuine laugh that startled them both. So I'm like, "You're show dog?" She picked up her fork, grinning. "You're grooming me for presentation, making sure I'm shiny and well-fed." His eyes darkened. "That's not. It's exactly what you're doing, Mr. Park. Don't worry. I'll be a good little trophy." Silence crashed between them. Then, impossibly, he exhaled something that might have been a laugh. It was so quiet, so brief, she almost missed it. But it was there. And Michelle realized something dangerous and exhilarating. She could get under his skin. She could make the Ice King crack. "You're attending a charity gala with me tonight," John Park announced one morning, not looking up from his tablet. Michelle paused mid-bite of her toast. "A what?" "A charity gala. Black tie. High profile. Investors, politicians, old money." He finally looked at her. "You'll be introduced as my girlfriend." Her stomach dropped. "You're what?" "My girlfriend. We need to present a united front. People are asking questions about why I bought your debt. This will silence them." "By lying?" His expression hardened. "By protecting both our reputations. Unless you'd prefer I tell them the truth, that you're here because you owe me $10 million. She swallowed hard. "When is this gala?" "Tonight, 7 p.m. A team will arrive at 4 to prepare you." "Prepare me? I'm not a doll." He stood, his voice dropping to that dangerous whisper she'd come to recognize. "Tonight, you are exactly what I need you to be. Elegant, poised, mine." He left before she could respond. At 4 p.m., the storm arrived. 3 stylists descended on Michelle's room like a beautiful, terrifying tornado. They waxed, plucked, buffed, and polished her until she barely recognized herself in the mirror. Then they brought out the dress. Emerald green silk that shimmered like liquid jewels. Backless, fitted perfectly to every curve. A slit up the thigh that was borderline scandalous. Michelle stared at her reflection, breathless. She looked expensive, dangerous, powerful. She looked like she belonged in John Park's world. At 6:55 p.m., she descended the grand staircase slowly, one hand on the railing, her heart pounding. John Park stood at the bottom, adjusting his cufflinks. He wore a black tuxedo that fit him like a second skin. He looked up and froze. His eyes traveled down her body slowly, deliberately, possessively. Something dark and hungry flickered in his expression before he controlled it. "You look." He stopped, jaw clenching. "Like a well-groomed show dog?" she offered, smiling innocently. His eyes snapped to hers, sharp and intense. "Perfect. You look perfect." Her breath caught. He offered his arm. She took it, her hand trembling slightly against the fine fabric of his tuxedo. As they walked to the car, he leaned close, his breath warm against her ear. "Remember the rules tonight. You smile when I smile. You laugh when I laugh. You touch me when I touch you." Her pulse spiked. "Touch you?" His hand slid to her lower back, possessive and burning through the thin silk. "We're a couple, Michelle. Act like it." The gala was overwhelming. Crystal chandeliers dripped light across a ballroom that looked like it belonged in a palace. Designer gowns in every color. Diamonds that could probably fund a small country. Men in tuxedos who carried themselves like they owned the world because they probably did. And John Park walked through it all like a king surveying his kingdom. Michelle stayed at his side, his hand never leaving her lower back. Every touch burned. Every glance from other guests felt like judgment wrapped in curiosity. She could hear the whispers as they passed. Who is she? Where did John find her? She's stunning, but is she after his money? John's hand tightened on her waist, pulling her closer, silently claiming her in front of everyone. An older businessman approached, grinning widely. "John, wonderful to see you. And who is this absolutely lovely creature?" John Park's expression didn't soften. Michelle Brooks. My girlfriend. The word sent electricity down Michelle's spine. Girlfriend. The man's eyes roamed over her a bit too long, a bit too appreciatively. Michelle's skin crawled. You're a very lucky man, John. John Park's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. His hand on her waist became steel. Very, he said, his voice dropping to ice. Now, if you'll excuse us. He guided Michelle away smoothly, his grip firm but not painful. They moved through the crowd, John introducing her again and again. Each time Michelle played her part, smiled graciously, laughed softly at jokes that weren't funny, touched his arm at appropriate moments. She was a performer in a play she hadn't rehearsed for, and somehow, she was nailing every scene. But inside, her emotions were a storm. This was all fake, a performance. He didn't care about her. She was just another asset, another way to maintain his image. Then a younger man approached, late 20s, handsome in that all-American way, with an easy smile and confident stride. Excuse me, miss, would you like to dance? Before Michelle could even process the question, John Park's voice cut through the air like a blade. She's occupied. The man raised his hands apologetically. Sorry, I didn't realize she was with. Now you do. The man retreated quickly, clearly recognizing the danger in John's tone. Michelle turned to John, anger flashing in her eyes despite her performance. That was rude. That was necessary. Why? Afraid I'll embarrass you. His eyes bore into hers with an intensity that stole her breath. No. Then what? He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper only she could hear. Because you're mine tonight, and I don't share what's mine. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Before she could respond, he took her hand and pulled her onto the dance floor. His arm wrapped around her waist. Her hand rested on his shoulder. They moved together to the classical music, close, dangerously close. You're doing well tonight, he murmured. I'm a good actress, she replied, keeping her voice light. Are you? His eyes searched hers, looking for something she wasn't sure she could give. Michelle's breath hitched. The crowd around them seemed to fade. The music became distant. It was just them, just his hand burning through the silk at her waist, just her heartbeat thundering in her ears, just the heat between them that she couldn't explain and didn't want to acknowledge. John, she whispered, not knowing what she wanted to say. Don't, he said quietly, his voice strained. Don't say anything that will make this more complicated than it already is. It's already complicated. His forehead dipped, almost touching hers. I know. The song ended. The spell broke. He stepped back, the wall between them rebuilding instantly, brick by brick. But Michelle stood there, trembling, knowing something had shifted between them tonight. Something dangerous. Something inevitable. Michelle made a mistake. A client had called to reschedule a meeting, and Michelle forgot to update John's calendar immediately. She'd written it down, planning to tell him at dinner, but the message slipped her mind. John missed an important conference call with investors in Seoul. A deal worth millions was delayed. That evening, he entered her room without knocking. His expression was cold, controlled, absolutely terrifying. You cost me a deal today. Michelle's chest tightened with dread. I'm sorry. I meant to tell you about the reschedule, but I don't accept excuses. He stepped closer, and Michelle instinctively backed up until her legs hit the bed. You have responsibilities here, Michelle. When you fail them, there are consequences. Fear crept up her spine like ice water. What kind of consequences? His eyes were emotionless. You're confined to this room for 3 days. No leaving. No visitors except Sarah bringing meals. No access to the rest of the house. Her eyes widened. That's imprisonment. That's the price of failure. Anger exploded in her chest, overwhelming the fear. You can't do this. You can't just lock me up like some kind of prisoner. You are a prisoner, he said flatly. Or did you forget? You signed your freedom away the moment you put your name on that contract. Tears burned her eyes. I hate you. Something flickered in his expression. Pain? Regret? Then it was gone, buried under ice. Good, he said quietly. Hate keeps you sharp. Hate keeps you from forgetting what you are. And what am I? she demanded, voice breaking. His jaw clenched. He stared at her for a long, painful moment. Mine. He turned and left. The door locked with a decisive click. Michelle sank onto the bed, fists clenched, hot tears streaming down her face. She hated him, hated this place, hated herself for the tiny, traitorous part of her that had almost started to see him as something more than her captor. 3 days alone nearly destroyed her, not because of the confinement, not because of the isolation, but because of the silence. In that silence, Michelle realized something horrifying. She'd gotten used to him, his presence, his voice, the way he looked at her across the breakfast table, the rare moments when his mask slipped and she glimpsed something human underneath. She'd gotten used to the man who owned her, and that realization terrified her more than anything else. When the door finally unlocked on the morning of day 4, Michelle didn't rush out immediately. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing, her mind a mess of confusion and exhaustion. Then John Park appeared in the doorway. They stared at each other across the room. "Did you learn your lesson?" he asked, his voice quieter than she'd ever heard it. Michelle stood slowly, walked toward him, stopped inches away, close enough to see the shadows under his eyes, the tension in his jaw. "Yes," she said softly. His eyes searched hers. "What did you learn?" She looked up at him, her voice barely above a whisper. "That you're lonely, and you don't know how to let anyone in without hurting them first." He flinched, actually flinched, like she'd struck him. "Michelle." She walked past him, her shoulder brushing his. "I'm going to make breakfast." He stood frozen in the hallway, his hands clenched at his sides. And for the first time in years, John Park felt something he thought he'd buried forever. Guilt. Michelle started doing things she didn't have to do. Small things. Quiet things. She noticed John worked late most nights, hunched over his laptop in his office until past midnight. So she started leaving a thermos of coffee outside his door before she went to bed, with a small note. "Don't work yourself to death. M." She noticed he always tossed his jacket carelessly over the back of his chair after meetings. So she started folding it properly, hanging it in his closet. She noticed the tension in his shoulders after particularly brutal conference calls. So she started making his favorite foods for dinner, Korean dishes she'd researched online and practiced until they were perfect. And John Park noticed. One night, he came home late from a meeting that had clearly gone poorly. His tie was loosened, his hair slightly disheveled, his eyes exhausted and distant. Michelle was in the kitchen making tea. "You're still awake," he said, surprise flickering across his face. "Couldn't sleep." She handed him a cup. Their fingers brushed, and electricity sparked between them. "Chamomile," she said softly. "It helps." He stared at the cup like it was a foreign object, something he didn't know how to accept. "Why are you being kind to me?" She shrugged, offering a small smile. "Maybe I'm Stockholm Syndrome ing. Or maybe I just think everyone deserves kindness, even people who lock other people in rooms for 3 days." The barb hit its mark. His throat worked as he swallowed. "I don't deserve your kindness." "Probably not," she agreed lightly. "But I'm doing it anyway. Consider it interest on my debt." She turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. "Michelle." She looked back. His eyes were raw, vulnerable in a way she'd never seen. "Thank you." 2 words, but they carried the weight of a confession. She nodded and left him standing there, cup in hand, walls cracking. John Park had a business associate visiting from Shanghai. His name was Chun, tall, handsome, charming in that effortless way that made women swoon. He arrived for a lunch meeting, and the moment he saw Michelle serving drinks, his entire face lit up. "John, you didn't tell me you had such a beautiful girlfriend." Michelle blushed despite herself. "Oh, I'm not. She is." John Park cut in, his voice sharp enough to draw blood. Chun grinned, completely oblivious to the danger. "Well, you're a lucky man." Throughout the lunch meeting in John's home office, Chen's eyes kept drifting to Michelle every time she entered to refill water or bring documents. And every single time, John's jaw grew tighter. After Chun finally left, John grabbed Michelle's wrist the moment the door closed. "Don't encourage him." She blinked, genuinely confused. "I wasn't." "You smiled at him, laughed at his jokes." "I was being polite." That's literally what you hired me to do. You don't need to be polite to men who look at you like that. Like what? She demanded, pulling against his grip. Like they want you. Her breath caught. And why do you care? His grip tightened, not painfully, but possessively. His eyes blazed with something dark and raw. Because you're mine. I'm not a possession, John. Yes, you are. The words exploded from him. Then, quieter, more broken. You are. She stared at him, heart pounding, seeing something in his eyes she'd never seen before. Fear. He was afraid of losing her. Why? She whispered. Why does it matter if other men look at me? He released her wrist, stepping back, breathing hard. Forget it. John. I said forget it. He walked away, leaving Michelle standing there trembling, her mind reeling, because she finally understood. He didn't just own her. He wanted her, really wanted her, and that changed everything. Everything shattered on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Michelle received a smuggled phone call from her younger brother, Marcus. She had no idea how he got the mansion's number, but his voice on the line made her heart ache. Michelle? Oh my God. Is this really you? Where are you? I've been so worried. Her voice cracked. Marcus, I'm fine. Promise. Just focus on your studies. Okay? But your debt. Someone told me you disappeared. That you were taken by. It's handled. She interrupted, tears streaming down her face. Everything's fine. Don't worry about me. Michelle, please. Just tell me where you are. I have to go. I love you. Please. Just trust me. She hung up quickly, pressing her hands to her face, sobs racking her body. John Park's voice came from the doorway, cold and sharp. Who was that? Michelle jumped, spinning around. No one. His eyes narrowed dangerously. Don't lie to me, Michelle. My brother, she admitted, wiping her tears angrily. He's worried about me. You're not allowed unsupervised contact with anyone from your previous life. That's Rule 6. Fury exploded in her chest like a supernova. He's my family, she screamed. He's scared. He doesn't know where I am or if I'm even alive. And whose fault is that? John's voice rose to match hers. Your father's debt put you here. Your choices led you to me. I didn't have a choice. Tears poured down her face. And you're my prison guard, my captor. You can control my time, my body, my presence, but you'll never own what I feel inside. Silence crashed between them like thunder. Then he moved. Fast. He closed the distance in 3 strides and grabbed her face with both hands, his eyes wild, desperate, terrified. What do you feel, Michelle? Tell me. I don't know, she sobbed. I hate you. I'm terrified of you. But somehow I say it, he demanded, his voice breaking. I care about you. The confession ripped from her throat. God help me, I do. And I hate myself for it. I hate that I wait for you to come home. I hate that I miss you when you're gone. I hate that some sick, twisted part of me actually looks forward to seeing you. She beat her fists against his chest, sobbing. I hate you for making me feel this way. He kissed her, hard, desperate, claiming. Michelle gasped against his mouth, and for 1 second, she froze. Then something inside her snapped. Her hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, kissing him back with all the anger and confusion and desperate longing she'd been burying for months. His kiss was fire, possession, apology, desperation. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard, foreheads pressed together. I don't want to own you, he whispered against her lips, his voice wrecked. I want you to choose me, to stay because you want to, not because you're forced to. Michelle's eyes filled with fresh tears. How can I choose you when I'm your prisoner? When every moment of my life belongs to you? Pain flashed across his face, so raw it made her chest ache. Then I'll let you go. Her heart stopped. He stepped back, his hands falling away from her face. Tomorrow, I'll release you from the contract. You'll be free, your debt forgiven, your brother's education fully funded. You can go back to your life. Michelle couldn't breathe. John, go to bed, Michelle. His voice was hollow, empty, defeated. He turned and walked out, closing the door softly behind him. She spent the entire night pacing her room, her mind a battlefield. She should take the freedom, run, never look back. But every time she imagined walking out those doors and never seeing John Park again, her chest ached with a pain she couldn't explain. He was cold, controlling, impossible, but he was also lonely, broken, desperate for connection in the only way he knew how. And somewhere between his rules and his rare smiles, his punishment and his unexpected vulnerability, she'd started to see him, really see him. By morning, she'd made her decision. She found John in his office, staring out the window at the sunrise. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept either. "John," he didn't turn. "Your release papers are on the desk. Sign them. You're free." She walked toward him slowly, her heart pounding. "What if I don't want to be free?" He finally turned, and the devastation in his eyes nearly broke her. "Don't play games with me, Michelle. Not about this." "I'm not playing." She stopped in front of him, searching his face. "You said you don't want to own me. You want me to choose you." His breath hitched. "So I'm choosing." His hands came up to cup her face, trembling. "Why? After everything I've done to you." She smiled through her tears. "Because somewhere between your impossible rules and your ridiculous breakfast standards, I saw past the ice. I saw a man who's terrified of being alone, who doesn't know how to ask for what he needs without taking it, who punishes himself more than he punishes anyone else. Michelle, I'm falling in love with you," she confessed, her voice shaking. "And I don't know if that makes me strong or stupid or just completely insane. But it's the truth." He made a sound, half laugh, half sob. "I'm falling in love with you too," he whispered, his forehead pressing against hers. "I have been for weeks. Maybe from the moment you called me out for treating you like a show dog and made me laugh for the first time in years." She laughed through her tears. "That's when you fell for me? Really? You were fearless, sassy. You didn't let my control break you." His thumbs brushed her tears away. "You fought back, made me smile, showed me kindness I didn't deserve. How could I not fall?" He kissed her then, soft, gentle, like she was precious. When they pulled apart, she whispered, "I need time, John, to trust this, to trust us, to know you can love me without trying to control me." "I'll wait," he said immediately. "As long as you need. Forever if that's what it takes." She smiled, touching his face. "Let's start with tomorrow, and see where it goes." "Tomorrow," he agreed, pulling her close. For the first time since she'd entered his world, Michelle felt something she never thought possible. Hope. 6 weeks later, Michelle stood in the kitchen, humming while she prepared lunch, when arms wrapped around her waist from behind. "You're supposed to be working," she said, smiling. John pressed a kiss to her neck. "I am working. On us." She turned in his arms. "Smooth. I try." Things had changed between them. The rules were gone. The locks removed. She was free to leave whenever she wanted. She chose to stay. Every morning, she woke up next to him. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. They still fought, still challenged each other. But now it came from passion, not control. "I love you," he murmured against her hair. "I love you too," she replied. "Even though you're still impossible sometimes." He laughed, and the sound still amazed her. "I have something for you," he said, pulling back. He handed her an envelope. Michelle opened it, her breath catching. Legal documents. Her debt, officially forgiven. Her name cleared. Her brother's education fully funded for the next 4 years. And at the bottom, a new contract. Not for servitude. Not for ownership. For partnership. "I want to do this right," John said quietly. "No control. No rules. Just us. Equal. Together." Tears streamed down her face. "John, will you stay? Not as my possession. As my partner. My equal. My—" "Yes," she interrupted, kissing him. "Yes, yes, yes." He held her tight, and for the first time in his life, John Park felt complete. Not because he owned someone, but because someone chose to stay. Besties, if you enjoyed the story, smash that subscribe button right now. Then drop a comment and tell me, do you want part 2? What should happen next? Outside threats? Jealous ex? secrets from her past, and where you're watching from. This is just the beginning of Michelle and John's story. The real drama is about to begin. Merry Christmas in advance to you all. Thanks for watching.